What's up, coaches? How you doing? Welcome to this edition of the Basic B-Ball podcast. Super excited to have our guest on, Jason Thompson, currently at Rider University and former pro player. Coach, how you doing?
What's going on? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. As we get going, was just hoping you could kind of give us a background of your playing career and then how you've gotten into coaching and what that's looked like in that transition a little bit.
Man, so South Jersey product out of Mount Laurel, New Jersey, 30 minutes outside of Philadelphia, maybe even closer than that. And grew up, Eagles fan, Sixers fan, and those sorts. Was a guard for most of my career, even before the Steph Curry days, where I was, looking into the crowd and trying to be as efficient with my three pointers. At the time wasn't the most athletic, but had a smooth jumper and was a hard worker. Grew 9 inches in high school. I was 5'11" my freshman year, 6'3" my sophomore year, 6'6" my junior year, and 6'8". So that transition from freshman year, sophomore year, I was a guard, and then those last that junior and senior year, I became a big man. So at that time, I still was 6'8", 190 my senior year. So, with that being said, I had my guard skills develop, big man skills at the time when it's still big men still had post moves and mid range and all those type of things. So it became a tougher, person to guard. And that's why, I was getting more recruited by the mid majors. They seemed the talent and the potential, in me, but they knew I had to put on muscle. And like I said, it was a 2-year plan. So, eventually I signed my letter of intent to Rider University, which is, 30 minutes outside of, where I'm from, Lawrenceville, New Jersey, Trenton, out right side of Trenton. And like I said, went there. I just, remember, having those times where, wasn't having an ego. We had 8 seniors that year. And then I remember, you have those times where you should have, beat a team and it just didn't happen. You're in the locker room and never forget it where, hey, freshman, what you got to say? And I was just like, hey, man, we're coming off the bench. We're bringing the big energy. Y'all come back in and, being a little bit lethargic and those sorts. And then next thing you know, I'll never forget. I'm glad kind of probably they let me know the next day for shoot around. But at shoot around, they were like, I hope you have walk with your talk. You're starting today. I don't know if what I would have did if I would have slept on that. But I was ready. Had a double-double. We got a win, had a win streak, and the rest is history of what I accomplished at that school. And then started going up the ranks. At that time, it still was no NIL. So in my second year, I was trying to transfer, to a bigger school. But, smartly enough, the school recruited my brother, who was very talented as well. We made it work and stuff. And, I stayed 2 more years. And like I said, the rest is history with college. I don't know if you want me to keep going on as I go later on in NBA and stuff.
Yeah, man, if you want to just touch on kind of just quickly kind of your pro journey and then how did that develop into coaching? So ended up back at Riders. Like that's pretty cool. Back under I think one of your assistants who's the head now.
Hmm.
So kind of what did that look like? Just kind of that transition to professional playing, and then how did that end up getting you back
Yeah.
into coaching?
Yeah. So then now, everybody was talking about, hey, I'm starting to get these looks now. I'm getting invited to these camps. So my junior year, it was me, Kevin Durant, and Nick Fazekas were the only guys in the country averaging 20 and 10 at the time. I'm like, hey, I want to go back. So, that 6'8", 190 kid now is a 6'11", 250 NBA prospect. Now I have NBA GMs, right when the doors open, the games are sold out. So, a lot has changed in those 4 years. And then, in June that year, I was drafted 12th overall to the Sacramento Kings. Like I said, just did really well in workouts. And never know how things go. It was mid to late first round, but then, you go to a team in the lottery and, was real blessed. In that time, I had Reggie Diaz as my coach. And that would be history itself, because then in 7 seasons with the Kings, I had 7 different coaches. I could name them: Reggie Theus, Kenny Nat, um, Paul Westfall, Tyrone Corbin, Keith Smart, Mike Malone, and George Carl. So yeah, so I never had a coach back to back seasons in my NBA career, let alone professional career. So then I eventually I get traded to the Sixers, which many people don't know. And then that was in the summer, I think, of 2016, if I'm not mistaken. And then in that same summer, I get traded to the Warriors, who had just won their first championship with the Andrew Bogut's and Draymond and all that. I played half of the season there, and then I signed with the Toronto Raptors. And then I played with the Dwayne Casey year, where at the time it was the farthest they ever gone. We went to the Eastern Conference Finals and lost to the LeBron James Cavs, who ended up beating the Warriors in that historical Game 7 at Oracle Arena. Then I took my talents overseas, where I played in China, Spain, and Turkey for 6 years. And during that time, I had given back to my alma mater at Rider. Part of the training that I would do in the off season, I would do it Rider regardless, but then I gave a practice gym under my name, and then lockers and also offices for the coaches and stuff. I'm all doing these things because, I knew I wanted to do it at some point, but then also I wanted to help out the coaching staff. I obviously would help with recruiting and stuff like that too. And not thinking that I needed anything in return. I just wanted to get back at some point. But, when I was coming back, I was having these workouts, I was having these pickup games. And of course, the players were gravitating to me. I'm teaching them not just pickup, but just, all those type of things. And then next thing you know, they're like, yo, man, we would love to have you at some point when you're done, playing. You're great with the guys, and they gravitate to you. So as time went on, I kept playing. My 14th year, I was playing well, and then I popped my calf twice. I just think it was writing was on the wall. And then, these last 2 years, I've been coaching at Rider University as assistant coach and a director of player development. So it was a great opportunity. We finished second my first year, finished, I think third or fourth last year, with some great guys doing a lot of great things as well, too. So, I during that time, I was able to get my master's in May. I also was in the MBA coaching development program since October of this year. And like I said, I've just been grinding, throughout this time. So it's been a blessing to be able to, coach at my alma mater, where, it all started.
No, that's awesome, man. Well, first off, congrats on getting the master's. I know it's a big accomplishment after being out of school for some years and whatnot. So congrats on that, man.
Appreciate it.
A bunch of questions off of that, man. It's a turbulent story, dude. Of like, when I think about like your career, it's like being in Sac for, like, I always think of Sacramento Kings, and as long as you were there, and it's like people forget that, man, of how many coaching changes that were there just in your own tenure there.
All right.
But then even after you leave the Kings, it's like you kind of bounce around and aren't really solid somewhere for a couple years. So how did that help you develop as a coach? How did that help you develop as a player, and kind of some lessons you learned from that of having so many different coaches? Because that's gonna be hard for a young guy to develop when you got so many different expectations from different guys each year.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's weird going into a training camp not thinking championship, it's thinking of more survival. And that just makes you just a stronger player. And, each and every year, if it's someone in the draft or someone in the trade or something like that, you see so many of my teammates had either got traded or out of the league or something like that as years go. So like I said, development is really tough. I think also too, it helped me become, as I was a vet and also as a coach, just because, like, even in this area, you had Brent Brown, who did the trust the process, but you had a ownership that believed in him and believed in stuff. So, you had those years where they got those top picks, really bad seasons, but then when they have the Ben Simmons, the Joel Embiids, the And the list goes on of those top picks. I think Joel Okafor, Nerlens Noel, Markel Fultz. Those you don't get those picks without kind of tanking in a way at that time, which we didn't do in Sacramento. And they tried as much as you can, but like I said, there was no stability. So as much as we talk about how the years was tough and stuff, but I mean, like I said, if there's one thing too, because if there are guys that are still stay there, they could still be able to develop under that same system. But every off season, when you have new staff and a new system, there's no way you can have any type of continuity. Like I said, I think that helps me a lot because I know how to coach guys and knowing that, all right, well, stuff might not be the easiest situation, but as long as you buy into the system you believe in. But it's tough for to have a young guy believe into something that just keeps changing and changing because your credibility is a little bit tarnished.
Yeah, man, definitely. No, it's got to be, like I said, young guy, turbulent start, but you made the best of it, man. Definitely did. One of the things you mentioned was just how much you've given back to Ryder throughout your playing career, and then you said your coach kind of had mentioned, man, like I would love to have you here once you finish. And did you ever think about coaching before that, or was that kind of something that sparked with you? When did the coaching bug kind of get you to decide to really jump into it?
Yeah, I think that later on, especially like when I started going overseas a little bit and I not feeling like I was the oldest, but I was one of the older players. And then some younger guys were retiring even before me. And I was leading as I was trying to, play my game as well too, which is not the easiest things to do, especially when it's not like you're used to the program, you're used to the coach. So it's tough even being a leader in general, let alone, a new system and a new coach and then you're trying to do your thing, but then also you're leading other young guys. Knowing how hard that was, and then I've seen some success as well. People were saying like, "Hey, man, like you're a natural leader. You naturally, have experienced, the highest levels. I played in the EuroLeague Championship. I've been to the Final Four. I've been to the Eastern Conference Championship, not the NBA Finals, but like I said, just been at the highest of levels. I played with great coaches, Steve Kerr, Dwayne Casey, Mike Malone, Obradovic, in EuroLeague, who's arguably the best coach in Europe history. You know what I mean? So I've been around coaching too, and regardless of coaches, yell and all those type of things, yelling, it doesn't mean anything, man. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes in this sensitive generation, so many kids are like, yo, all right, he's yelling at me, let me go somewhere else. But back then you didn't have those type of choices. You had to stay. If you wanted to transfer, especially in college, you had to wait a whole year. Nowadays you can leave in a couple of months. So the accountability is a little bit different with this generation. I mean, it's good for them, but the tough minded was kind of back in the day, and I think it kind of helps us because I'm able to lead by example because I actually played at that level.
Yeah, definitely, man. You kind of said it of still going back to how many coaches you had, and a lot of good coaches too. Like you said, I like George Karl only there for a year, kind of the later on of his career. Like Malone winning NBA championships, and it's like he was there for a year, and then Steve Kerr and like guys like that, and then a plethora of other coaches in there. What's some of the stuff that you took from those guys? You don't have to name names if you don't want to, but either stuff that you saw and is like, man, I want to be able to implement this once I get into coaching, or maybe you weren't thinking about it at that point. And then also some stuff you're like, man, I hope I never do that once I start coaching, but kind of both sides of it, some of the stuff you saw.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you even talk about how Coach Kerr was, congratulations to him and Team USA of winning the gold. But then, like, that was something new to me. It's one thing, I can come with a certain type of charisma from what I've accomplished in SAC, regardless if we winning or not. But you got to take your ego aside on a championship caliber team. So, with that being said, the different rotations was something I wasn't really used to as well. One day I would start, one day I'll play 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and it just depends on matchups, if you're not, Steph, Clay, and Draymond, respectfully. You know what I mean? So I would say on that, I think sometimes rotations are a little bit interesting to learn about. I also think too is having a great relationship with your coach, right? You may not be able to agree with them all the time, but if you have that open door policy, I think is really good because like I said, like even if you don't think that the person can play with someone, that doesn't, pouting, complaining, talking to the media and stuff like that is not going to make, change anything, and then if they want to trade or something like that too, do you think the coach that they're going to or the team they want to go to wants to deal with that type of stuff either as well too? So it's one of them is being professional. If you're a player, if you're a coach, if you're a teammate, and let all that other stuff be off the court. But when it comes down to in between those lines, you got to be locked in. So, it's that. And I think that the player coach is the most important thing. But also, too, it's more actions than words. Don't tell me something that and then, be differently with your actions. So I think that has a lot to do with players. And say, hey, I won't do this or I will do this, and they don't do it. And same thing with coaches as well, too.
Yeah, definitely. I think we sometimes forget as coaches, it's like you gotta be held just as accountable as the players. We want to hold those guys accountable so much and then think we're above the law and don't gotta follow our own accountability sometimes. You were mentioning one of your big roles at Riders, your player development, and you had said earlier it's like you started as a guard, so definitely as a young guy, kind of having some guard skills and then developing your big man skills as well. Like, how has that helped you? Are you able to develop? Do you feel like pretty much 1 through 5 and really to able to work with development with everybody? And kind of how has your career and the different roles you've played been able to help you with the player development?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I do think even my game is more forward to how it is now. Honestly, that's what kind of made me into a product, especially out of Rider. And then like I developed more of a mid range and face up and post up and stuff like that. Rather now, it's if I'm having a point guard switch on 1 through 5, man, I'm going right at them. So like I said, everything timing and things. But even back then, I run a camp. I just had a camp, last week, 300 kids, boys and girls since 2008. My first 8 years was in Sacramento, and the last 8 have been in New Jersey, where I'm from. And I always say at camp, I said, raise your hand if you're the tallest kid at camp, right? And I go, yo, that doesn't mean you have to be the center, right? You need to work on your game. You need to work on your ball handling. You need to work on your passing. You need to work on, if you get the rebound, bring the ball up. Can you bring up the press? I mean, at Ryder, I was taking the ball out and bringing the press up if they were denying the point guard. You know what I mean? Just having that versatility. But if I never worked on my game, I wasn't able to do that. If you're and I say, who's the shortest guy at camp? I said, well, you need to work on if you switch, there's someone shorter than you. So if be the Mark Jacksons of the world where you can post up, and if they're switching on to you, then you can be able to have a mismatch, or a Jason Kidd, where they used to post up guards and go to work on them. Like I said, being able to post, being able to face up, being able to not just do things that only guards do. And also fight with the bigs, because nowadays the most valuable guys are the two-way guys that can switch on the 5s, 4s, can guard every position. And you don't have to be able to, don't think you're going to score 20 points a game, right? You got to die for loose balls, be an energy guy, because, if you don't think that there's already superstars on every team, you're out your mind. So they're going to get their shots, rightfully so. But, you want those two-way guys that can be able to guard 1 through 5 in any position.
No, I love it. Yeah, I love what you said of like asking the little guys that question, because I think like positionless basketball, I think has been around, or like that phrase for a little while now, and we're kind of going towards that. But we always forget like positionless, like the little guys got to be able to do the big guy stuff too. Like that means they got to be able to post up and do all that kind of stuff and kind of have the big guy skills. And I think that's something that gets left out so often in our development, man. So I appreciate you being able to kind of give that back to those guys. One of the things we were talking about as well was the NBA coaching development program. I think I got that right. Would you just like speaking on that or what that looks like for you and kind of what that experience has been over the last year or so?
Yeah, so it's been good. The NBA does a great job of giving back to guys. I mean, there were some people that were former players. You had some women as well too, either WNBA or have college experience, and you're pretty much working on things that that don't tell you about the stereotype of former players, right? We always think that we just get stuff handed to us, but we were learning stuff about synergy, sports code, sports coding, fast scout and fast model, and things like that to be able to be great coaches at high levels, and stuff that we weren't taught, obviously, while we were playing and stuff like that too. So they helped with that. We had access to G League Showcase, Portsmouth, G League Elite Camp, and NBA Combine, and then also NBA Summer League as well, and then also any other camps and those sorts to get some good reps in. So that definitely helped me out. I was at a HBCU top 50 camp, this past summer, which was great, working with those guys, being a head coach for the first time. And something like that. If you would have asked me, 8 months ago, would I ever want to be a head coach? I'd be like, I never thought of doing that. I want to just keep developing. But now, that could be, in my future, just because of the enjoyment I had, the feedback I got from the players, and also the programs that I've done it as well too. So we'll see. I know it's harder than what it is, but I could definitely give you a more direct answer now and say that it's something that I may think of later down the line than it was without that experience.
Nice, cool. It sounds like a super good deal. And like, no, I think we forget as you get into coaching, all the little things that you were mentioning, sports code and the fast scout. Like, we think it's just sitting with the players or putting them through a drill and stuff like that, and so much other stuff that goes into it. So sounds like a great program to kind of develop you and get your hands wet with all that good stuff. One of the last things I was to ask you is, you kind of mentioned about your camp, but just the Jason Thompson Foundation, if you want to speak on that and kind of what the goal of the foundation is, what that looks like, and then also if anybody's looking to kind of help contribute to that, how they can do that.
Yeah, so being raised by my parents and my grandparents as well, I was always around soup kitchens. I always like helping out, even though we didn't have the most. But I always say it can always be worse. It can always be better. And anytime I could have been able to help out, it's something that I really enjoyed after when I was doing it. So I knew if I ever had a platform, I would want to give back. I was drafted in 2008. And then in 2010, in my second year, my cousin Tiffany Carroll passed away with heart disease, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which is the #1 heart disease in sports and I think overall. So I knew I wanted to get back at some point to relive her name. So with heart health, teaching about avoiding obesity, diabetes, of those sorts, eating healthy, staying hydrated. Every November we do a turkey and Thanksgiving drive, and give out to the less fortunate. And in December, we do a shopping spree for 50 kids of less fortunate as well too, which I enjoy. In the springtime, we give out 50 bikes and helmets, as well too, just teaching about exercise and these kids not play video games all the time. And then, like you said, I have my annual basketball camp, which this year was year 16, where we have over 300 kids. And the best feeling is just the stuff afterwards, man, where, I've seen some kids that they were in grade school and now they have scholarships and stuff, and they want to thank me and stuff like that. I'm putting them on and putting them in position, and those are the best feelings. And then after the camp, we give out book bags and school supplies for their upcoming school year. So it's a blessing. It's one thing that I just don't do just because I want to do it. I just want to be able to leave an impact on something and give back, especially to areas where help me become the man I am on and off the court.
That's awesome,
If
man.
they want to, oh sorry, and if they
Yeah,
want
no,
to
you're good. Go for it.
help out, it's Live Like JT on Instagram and Twitter, and livelikejt.com, and also the JasonThompsonFoundation.com as well.
Awesome, man. I love it. Super cool to see you giving back. Obviously rewarded through your hard work and everything, but not holding it yourself, giving back to others, man. That's awesome.
Appreciate it.
Well, cool, coach. I appreciate you hopping on and dropping a little bit of knowledge and sharing about your story and where you've been, man. I appreciate you and appreciate your time.
I appreciate it as well, man. It's great to be on this platform. Keep up the great work.
Cool. Appreciate you, coach. Have a good one.
All right, man. Take it easy.